Welcome to the Excelsior Health Podcast. This is the podcast for busy professionals and busy parents who are looking to lose body fat while building strength and transform their health. What we do, guys, on the podcast, we take the complicated and confusing aspects of health and fitness and we break it down to simple strategies and tactics so that way you can execute and get real results. I'm your head coach, or the leader of this podcast, the host of the podcast, Coach Cory Fernandes, and my co-host today,
Coach Susie.
All right, guys. We are the owners of Training for Warriors Saga, Mississauga's #1 personal strength training program. And hey, right now, what we are really promoting in our program is our 10-week strength and energy reset. This is catered to the person who's in their 40s, their 50s. They understand the importance of strength and really putting their health first. And what they're looking for is they're looking for coaching. They want to be in an environment where it's personalized, it's small group of people, and they're getting coaching on how to do strength training, but they're also getting coaching on their lifestyle habits. So meaning we're going to sit down with you every week and we're going to personalize your nutrition plan. We're going to help you with stress management tools, and we're going to keep you accountable so that at the end of 10 weeks, you feel like your lifestyle is back on track with your energy, your strength, and you've lost on average 6 to 15 pounds of fat. All right. So if you are interested in that, pop into our website, book a consultation. It will send you an amazing 10-minute informative video, and then we'll book a consultation with you. All right. So today's podcast episode, what we are going to be talking is always a popular topic. It's intermittent fasting. So today I'm going to be giving you guys fast tips to implement intermittent fasting into your lifestyle. And before we go over the tips, we're going to go over like what intermittent fasting is and some of the benefits that research shows and that people talk about, and maybe scenarios when you should incorporate intermittent fasting. So a lot of my information on this topic, Precision Nutrition is a program that I highly respect. Sean Stevenson in the Model Health podcast, that's one of my favorite podcasts as well. Mm-hmm. And his book, Eat Smarter and also Sleep Smarter, are things that really helped my coaching in terms of the lifestyle side of things. So this framework that we're going to be talking about in terms of the fast tips of implementing intermittent fasting is from that book. All right. So if you want to go deeper into the weeds, that's a good reference point that you guys could go into. I guess let's start off with like the science of meal timing. And basically what, we want to explain to everybody is, on average, most people are just eating constantly throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So the way things have evolved over time is it used to be really hard to get food.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it was economically or whether, years ago you had to go hunt your food, you had to prepare your food, you had to cook your food. Yeah. You just didn't have food as easy access. So we live in this stage where it's like convenience. So now that food is everywhere, literally, if you go to a gas station, literally you go to a store to buy clothes, there's food everywhere.
Uber Eats.
There you go.
Drive-through.
Did you delete it off the app yet? Uber Eats. Everything. Like, food is just so easy to get your hands on whatever food that you want. And what this has done is it's made the amount of hours in the day that people eat, it's been too much. Mm-hmm. So basically what we've found is on average, people are eating almost like 15 to 16 hours per day. And for most people, we're supposed to be sleeping about 7 to 8 hours. So what that really says is when we're not sleeping, we're literally just eating almost every hour, every other hour. And this is not good. This often leads to the overconsumption of calories and these bad habits that make people gain weight over time. So what intermittent fasting is, and basically like meal timing, it's like, can we restrict the window in which the hours you are actually eating food? And can you have certain periods where you're not? That's basically what fasting is you're
Mhm.
not taking in food. So to be clear, the standard that most people are is like 15 hours a day. They're constantly eating.
Yeah.
They're not giving themselves a break from food. Um, what from your understanding in terms of what you coach people, what would be like an ideal window of eating that most people should probably switch to?
Oh, especially if someone brand new is starting to implement this, it would be 12 hours. So, example, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yep.
would be a good tool, but you really have to adjust it based off of your lifestyle. Like, when do I wake up? When do I go to work? When do I come home? So, all those things plays effect for individual
Yep,
people.
definitely. But that's a simple thing, guys, is like just, shortening like 3 hours through the day where you're not
Yeah.
constantly eating. That could be the impact for people to start to see fat loss, but not
Mhm.
even just like the result of fat loss or weight loss. It's like changing your relationship to food.
Mhm.
That it's like you don't have to be sitting there always eating. You don't always have to be thinking about, oh my God, I need food. I need food. Like
Yeah.
that's how most people's day is they're constantly thinking about what's the next thing I have to drink or eat. All right. So
Yeah.
eating in that window of 8 to 12 hours is ideal. And that's typically what intermittent fasting is based upon. That most people are going 12, 16 hours without eating food.
Mhm.
Okay. So what we want to do is we want to go over just a couple benefits of intermittent fasting. But even before I give some of the benefits, like the term fasting, like it's going without food. That's a common thing. Like it's religious practices, even in terms of just healing yourself. It's a
Mhm.
really good thing to do. Breakfast is more of something that's a little bit more, um, I guess, modern is the word. Is it was normal that people didn't wake up and just eat, but with marketing campaigns, with the creation of cereal and things like that, it became pushed out there that, hey, the most important meal of the day
It's
is
breakfast.
breakfast. And I remember as a kid, like I thought you had to literally wake up and you had to eat or else you're in trouble. Like things are not going to run properly. But the reality is you could wake up, you should be hydrated, you should be drinking some water, but you could go 4, 5 hours, six
Yeah.
hours without eating any food at all. And it's perfectly fine to do that in some cases.
Mhm.
So just realize step number one is you don't have to wake up within that first hour and stuff your face with most things. Like, for example, in the morning, typical American, Canadian, but I'm sure in other parts of the world too.
Yeah.
What are people eating at breakfast?
Pancakes.
Yeah.
The word cake is in pancakes, muffin, a donut, cereal, a
Bam.
lot of high sugar carb foods
Exactly.
that aren't the best for you.
Right. So again, those are cakes.
Yeah.
All right. Pancakes, muffins, bagels, and then let me have my triple triple and my double double. Like these are packed calories that could be anywhere from 400 to 800 calories first thing in the morning. And no wonder why most of us after that were, lethargic, energy's low because our blood glucose levels are just getting spiked up and down. All right. So that's the one thing I want everyone to understand is could you eat breakfast and enjoy it? Of course you can. But can you have 2, 3, 4, 5 hours in the morning that you don't eat? There's nothing wrong with that at all. All
Mhm.
right. So some of the benefits that I'm just going to read off here that people, that research shows, some people argue against it. Some people are like such huge advocates for intermittent fasting. So here, it improves your metabolic function. So it's making your metabolism more efficient when you're consuming foods, um, which then also allows you to um, lose body fat more efficiently. Again, some people would argue really what matters is the consumption of calories, but that's one benefit that people say. Another benefit is your brain health.
Mhm.
So, one of the things when they talk about with brain health is this term called autophagy. So, what autophagy basically means, it's like, if in simple terms, it's like the recycling of your cells. So it's like taking out the old cells and replenishing them with the new cells. So that's one of the benefits to improve, to make sure your brain is working optimally. All right. So that's one of those. And then intermittent fasting reduces disease risk in slowing down the age process. And the argument behind that, like I'll give you the subtle detail, is when people are fasting, what they say is human growth hormone is supported during this time, right? So this is something that gets supported when we're sleeping. It's something that when we're fasting, when we're training, this is why they say it promotes slowing down the aging process, just like how strength training does and certain other practices. So going back to intermittent fasting, improving brain health, some of the research basically shows that when you practice intermittent fasting consistently, what it's linked to is better control over rates of depression, panic, mood disorders. Now, I don't know that personally myself, but to me, it kind of makes sense is when people are constantly thinking about food and they're resorting to food when they're dealing with emotional changes in their life or struggles, that usually can lead to some sort of stress or overwhelm. But taking a break from food and letting your body heal and moving, I could see how that could impact the brain. So those are just some benefits that are discussed, when you talk to a lot of experts about the benefits of intermittent fasting. Today, what we're going to basically give you guys is the framework, but also just kind of say, like, should you? And I think also, like, things that people should pay attention to, because I do think intermittent fasting is a great tool. I think most people don't do it properly. Mm-hmm. And I think people do it too extreme, and they do it for the wrong reasons. All right. So starting off with the fast tips of intermittent fasting, the first one is figure out an ideal eating window. Mm-hmm. So Coach Susie, you already mentioned that, like, basically you want to start with anywhere from 8 to 12 hours is what you're going to be eating. Why do you say, because you said it earlier, why do you think 12 hours is like ideal place to start?
I think it's ideal because you don't want to shock your body and you want to build a habit consistently. So you don't want to jump and do 8 hours if you can't even do 12. So giving yourself some time to build that habit and stick with it consistently, at least I would say like a month or two, just to make sure, like, okay, it's pretty good. Like, let me slowly adjust it. Instead of 12 hours, now let me try 11. So I would say slowly build it down until you do it for a long period of time at least.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what I say the challenge is when someone starts to learn about intermittent fasting and they hear one of the big kind of eating windows that is very ideal is the 8 hours of eating with the 16 hours of fasting. That is very popular and it is really good. But the problem is just doing it all of a sudden, it's harder than you think.
Yeah.
Because if you are unhealthy right now and you have a high weight or a high body fat, going back to what I said earlier, is you probably are eating 15 hours per day. Mm-hmm. So now all of a sudden you're going to shrink that down to 8. Maybe you do it for a week because you're so motivated in your discipline, but in most cases, it's going to be too intense too quick.
Yeah.
So instead of intensity, let's focus on consistency. So start with the 12 hours, and whether it's each week, whether it's a month, you'll see over time as you get better at it, you can shorten that eating window to 12, to 10, to 8. I know I don't think you have a set kind of eating window. I know you've experimented. Mm-hmm. What's your ideal kind of range?
I think for everyone's different, but I would say 10 hours is typically like an average, good, moderate time. And a lot of people don't realize that you have to include fasting like during your sleep because you're not eating while you're sleeping. So that's a good thing to think about too when you do pick it.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, to me, when I really am sitting down and focusing on my eating window, I think 10 hours.
Yeah.
Being a busy professional and just like with kids, like I think 10 hours is probably the best. Mm-hmm. 8 hours is great. I personally don't think there's much benefit for most people that are busy professionals and busy parents that their main goal is lose fat, be healthy, be strong, to shrink the window to like 4 hours and 6 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of people I'll do consultations with, and they'll be like, "Yeah, coach, I've been experimenting with intermittent fasting. I had lost 30 pounds before, but I gained it all back. I was doing one meal a day." And it's like, yeah, like one
Yeah.
meal a day, you're going to lose weight. But the goal is not to lose weight, it's to create an eating routine that you can lose body fat, you could build muscle, and you could be healthy.
Yeah.
Right. So, step one in terms of incorporating intermittent fasting into your nutrition habits is figure out your window. So, like Coach Susie said, is you might go to bed at 10 p.m. Maybe if you're listening to the podcast and you're prioritizing your sleep, maybe you're getting up now at 6 a.m. Okay. And then now you're going to break fast at, let's say, 10. All right. So that's 4 hours that they didn't eat.
Mm-hmm.
At 10 a.m., you have your first meal. So now what that allows you, if you were doing the 10 hours that me and Susie think is best for us, that means 8 p.m. at night would be when you cut off your food. So if you think about that for a busy professional who wakes up at 6 a.m., they have about 4 hours in the morning where they're living. They're not focusing on food. They're maybe making food for their kids and packing it. They're getting some work done, or they're focusing on their exercise. And then when their body's actually saying, yo, I'm hungry, like let me eat, then they're eating some food. And then after that, again, they're eating throughout the day. I think in that 10-hour span, what do you think is a decent amount of meals that maybe someone might have?
3. It could also be 2 meals and like some snacks, some protein snacks in between. I was gonna also ask you though, like, what would be the amount of hours that you want to have your last meal before you go to bed?
Yep.
Because that could also help someone pick their ideal eating window. So is it 8 o'clock, but then 2 hours you're going to bed, or is it 8 and then 3 hours you give your body time to digest?
I think there's steps. So, when we're trying to incorporate intermittent fasting, it's start with a time that you can stick to. So in this scenario that we're talking about, this person woke up at 6 a.m. They started their first meal at 10. Their window is at 8. They're going to bed at 10. So that's a 2-hour gap before bed. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Most people, they eat and then they go right to bed. In our program, and a lot of research supports this, is having 3 hours before you go to sleep is to have your last meal.
Yeah.
That's great in a perfect world, but it's not always going to be that way. So I would start with the consistent window, and then over time, as you're creating this lifestyle and you're getting better, to improve your sleep quality, you might decide to move that window up maybe an extra hour. And now maybe that person's in a 9-hour eating window.
Yeah.
Right. So that right there would be an example, is that person's last meal was at 7:45 at night. They wrapped it up at 8. And now from 8 to 10, there's no food. From 10 to 6, there's another fasting period. All right. So that's step one, is figure out your ideal window. The next one, with this abbreviation of FAST tips, so now we're going to A, is adjust to your lifestyle. So you had mentioned this as a busy mom, as a busy professional. What do you mean by adjust your lifestyle?
Because my schedule could be different than your schedule, right? I could be at home with the kids, waking up at 7 o'clock while you're waking up at 4 because you have to coach at 5. So whatever lifestyle suits your life is how you want to adjust it. So everyone individual eating window is going to be different.
Yeah. I'll give you guys examples. Like, I woke up today at 4:30 a.m. and I coached and worked from 5:30 a.m. to basically now. So today, what I consumed in the morning was 20 ounces of water, a cup of coffee, and then I probably had 2 cups of water while I was coaching. And then by 9:30 was another coffee. My first meal of the day was basically at 11 a.m. today. That was my first meal. It was about a 600-calorie meal with about 50 grams of protein. So that's when I broke fast, but I was working and I was active and I was doing my stuff. Susie, what time did you wake up?
7 o'clock. I woke up at 7, and I would say I had a protein shake probably right before I trained, and that's all I had so far.
So
I woke up at 7.
yeah, so the point that what I'm trying to say is if you just take a standard cookie cutter, hey, you have to do intermittent fasting from 12 to 8, it might not work for you because your lifestyle is different. You might be waking up at certain times where that just doesn't, it's just not ideal. And then the other thing is like, hey, do you have kids? Right? Sometimes your kids are maybe up late at night where you're around food. Are you a hockey mom? Right? Are you a sports dad where you have to come home late at night and then you have to give them food? Maybe that's something that pushes your eating window a little bit more. Are you someone who's training in the mornings? And for you, you thrive on having food before you work out. That might mean you have to have an earlier window, right? Maybe you're someone who trains in the evening and you need to have your food later at night. So there's lots of scenarios. Also, from a day-to-day standpoint, things change. My work schedule today was basically from 5:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'm in work mode. Yesterday was like a relaxed creative day. Was podcasting, reading. I didn't have to be up until 7 a.m. So that day, my eating window could be different. Instead of today, maybe 11 to 7, on that day, I might have chose to fast till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, because it's just a different day. So that's what we want you guys to understand is don't be so neurotic with the eating window. It's more about creating a plan and being consistent with it. If you shift from 10 to 8, when you're supposed to be doing 12 to 8, it's not the end of the world. All right? That's the key thing with fasting. Now, the next one in our fast tips to implementing intermittent fasting is S, which S basically represents safeguard with supportive nutrition. Okay, so what do we mean by safeguard is if you're eating quality foods and you're hydrating yourself with the right types of beverages, fasting will be easier for you. If you're trying to do intermittent fasting and you're pretty much just having whatever, high sugar foods, junk, you're just really trying to like minimize your calories, it's going to be way harder. And you're going to have a hard time taking a break from food. Right? So for example, when we say supportive nutrition, what will be some examples of like types of foods or even beverages that help people fast longer?
Staying hydrated, number one. Drinking 0-calorie drinks like black coffee, green tea. But is all your healthy macronutrients like your fats, your carbs, your protein, right? Especially protein, because it will keep you full longer and it'll stop you from snacking throughout the day. And I find that when you are eating those high quality foods too, because you're full longer, you're more productive in the day. Like you get more things done because your mind's not thinking constantly about the food.
So what would be like an example? Like let's say, going back to our example of the busy professional who woke up at 6 o'clock. They did a great morning strength training session here at Training for Warriors. They're back home because they're working from home and now they're having their first meal at 10. What would be that quality meal that has protein, carbs, and fats? Like, give me an example of what's on that plate.
So depending what you're craving that day, you could definitely have a protein shake on the side. But, if you want to have something like brunch, there's eggs on the plate, there's turkey bacon, there's turkey sausage, and then you can have your healthy fats, like some avocado on the side, and even some vegetables. Like there's nothing wrong with eating vegetables for breakfast, right? It doesn't have to be bread and pancakes and like all these high carb fatty foods that, are saturated fat that's not good for you, right? You could eat a meal as your breakfast.
Yeah,
a normal meal.
And I'll give an example. Like yours was a little bit more of like traditional breakfasty with the eggs, which is totally fine. But even at 10 a.m., if you come home and you're like, okay, I have a steak from yesterday, I'm having this steak. So this steak is about 50 grams. It's like 2 palms. I'm also going to have 2 servings of rice because I just had a big strength training day. I did leg day. And then I have, I have a couple servings of broccoli. That right there is a good meal that because it's supportive nutrition, that it's great protein, there's good healthy fats from the steak, there's the carbs, there's the fiber from the veggies. That's going to allow me now to be able to go longer periods without food.
Yeah.
The other part with the supportive nutrition is the water. If you're drinking the right amount of water, you're not going to have the cravings to eat as much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little trick, is when you're hungry, drink a bottle of water and still see if you have the exact same craving to have those snacks. Other go-tos for me is coffee. So, we're not saying go have a latte, a triple, and so forth. Is black coffee, even if it's one sweetener, one milk, something like that will help curb your appetite over time.
Yeah.
Another thing that's not necessarily like nutrition, but it's a lifestyle thing, is if you're getting good amount of sleep, that's also going to help you fast, right?
Yeah.
So the main point that we want you guys to understand with S is, if you're trying to fast by just eating shit, you're going to struggle, right? If I'm having one fast food meal and I'm like, oh, who cares? It's just one meal. You could get away with it. You might be okay, but consistently over time, you're going to find at nighttime when you're supposed to cut off that window, you're going to crash. And whatever food's around you, you're going to go and like consume that food. All right. Last one in our implementation is basically T, which is track your progress. And what I mean by that is like track the way you feel. Just because somebody on social media, just because your favorite author, just because your coach says, hey, intermittent fasting, 8 hours, 10 hours is amazing, it doesn't mean it's going to be good for you. You might put it into practice and you just might not like it, right? You might decide that, you know what, I need to have 5 times throughout the day that I eat. But all we're saying is all you want to do is try to have some control with at least 12 hours. It doesn't need to be extreme with 6, 7, 8 hours of an eating window. Yeah. So when we're saying that tracking how you feel, feeling is, how do you feel? Your energy,
your mood.
Yeah, your mood. Like,
are you getting results?
Yeah.
If you do want.
Is your muscle up? Is your body fat percentage down?
Yeah.
So if you see that your muscle is tanking because you're barely consuming calories and you're just constantly fasting, that might not be the best thing for you.
Yeah.
Right. But if you see your muscle is going up, your body fat's going down, your weight is at a good stage, that tells you that how you're incorporating your intermittent fasting, it's working for you. So as a kind of recall, figure out your ideal window, 8 to 12 hours. Adjust to your lifestyle. Don't be so neurotic. Some windows can be different based on how your days are structured. Make sure you're choosing quality foods and quality beverages that keep you hydrated and filled, so that way you can actually stick to your eating windows. And lastly, track your results. How do you feel? What is your mood like? And are you gaining muscle and losing body fat? My last point that I'll say is, a lot of people think they're doing intermittent fasting, but they're actually not, because maybe they do it Monday to Thursday, but on the weekends, they just do whatever. And then they get into that stage where the weekends is like overeating calories, and then they're back at square one. I also want to make a point, guys, is don't do intermittent fasting solely because you want some quick way to lose weight. Do intermittent fasting because you want to get control over your hunger. You want to get control over your relationship to food. Maybe you want to stop feeling so lethargic, and you just want to create a little bit more discipline, right? Those are the reasons why you would do it. And the way I look at intermittent fasting, there's all those different benefits, but really what it is, it's a tool to help you manage your calories. And if you're someone who's looking to lower your body fat and improve your physique, that's ultimately what you have to do. Because even if Coach Susie recommends, hey, I want you to eat 3 meals in 8 hours and then fast for 16, if in those 8 hours you're over consuming on calories, it doesn't matter that you were in the window. You're still not going to be getting the results that you want.
Yeah.
Is there any final points you want to add?
No.
Feel good? So, hey, intermittent fasting is an amazing tool. It's something that we highly preach about, we coach about in our program, but just make sure you're using it the right way. Follow Sean Stevens' tips, to implement intermittent fasting into your lifestyle. And if you need help with that, that's exactly what our program does at Training for Warriors. So I'm Coach Cory.
Coach Susie.
Signing out.
Peace.